Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We're broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape studios. Our guest here now in the first hour is Mr. David Schrager, who is a homeowner at the Captain's Quarters Homeowners Association in Staten Island, New York. And if you're just joining us now, we've been talking to David about his homeowners association where there have been no elections for 9 years for people serving on the board. It's just been presumed by the board and determined by them that they will just appoint those that they need over the last 9 years, and homeowners didn't need to really be a part of this. And as a matter of fact, there were no annual meetings. There were no regular monthly meetings that homeowners were even aware of, knowing what was going on.
Yeah. And, David, also, you mentioned that you're a self-managed association. And, I think that property management is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I'm also shocked that an association as large as yours, over 200 units, is self-managed. That's a huge job.
Well, there are substantial problems with the self-management. One of the biggest problems is that the president of the homeowners association turned around and set up the escrow account with his financial institution. So he was holding the Captain's Quarters homeowners escrow account where he worked.
Oh, I see. Wow.
And so that's just one thing that you know of. You're not necessarily aware of whether or not there were other contracts that were more closely held that might have been family, friends, or other people who may have been benefited by such a relationship?
I can't say anything beyond what, to me, appears to be a conflict of interest. I don't see anything beyond that. We haven't been able to get a good look at the books and records. We were provided a 4-hour slot at an attorney's office, no less, not at the Homeowners Association where the books and records are regularly kept and where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I was there with 2 other people. We had to sign affidavits. I don't know what your state provides, but we had clearly made this request so that we could see the books and records before the election.
Yeah.
If I may give you just a touch of background. At the
Sure.
August meeting, we had requested that there be meet and greets with those people who wanted to run. We had requested that everybody prepare their bios, that we have discussions. They agreed to these things. We agreed to look at the books and records, and then the board reneged on everything. And there was supposed to be a joint ballot.
I got to say, David, everything that you've been telling me seems just so reasonable, natural, and just makes sense. And I just don't know why others would not allow this to happen.
Well, I received emails and comments from people as I went door to door who were afraid to vote against this board because of potential retribution.
How could they come back as a homeowners?
Well, if you don't get used to, remember this is not run by a management company; it's run by the board. Mm-hmm. And if your roof is leaking and you're not necessarily in their good graces, the time it takes to get it fixed, and that's just an example.
Sure. So there's really no confidence at all in this board. It doesn't seem.
No, there were a lot of problems. The election did come up. Well, and if you want me to move forward a little bit.
Yes, please do. What happened? You finally had the annual meeting.
We had said, there's a little history before that, and I'll quickly go through that. We had adjourned the meeting to October 19th, and that was by vote and proxy. That was the vote, proxy, and it passed. And the board said, no, only we can set the date of the meeting. And this was after not hearing from the board through the entire month of September. Nothing, no date. Their excuse was they can't announce the annual meeting and election until no more than 30 days before. Okay. So before October 19th, we did a circular saying we're going forward with the election. And then they sent around the note saying, no, it'll take place in November. So we held off, and finally on November 7th, the election was held after they sent out another notice. Okay. And on November 7th, at that point, they had already sent out their proxies with their names, ignoring the other candidates.
So at that point, you already had, just because of the previous date set, other people who stepped forward and said we would like to also run.
Yes, we have. We had a full. We didn't want to call it a slate because we were all individuals, although we were working together. We didn't want to put ourselves out as a group that we agreed with everybody. We all had different opinions and different feelings about what should be done in the community, which I think is understandable.
Yeah.
But I think we all had one common thing, which was transparency.
Yeah.
Right.
Bidding, certain things that I think are more appropriate for management of the community.
Okay. Now, when you had the meeting, if I remember reading the article that was online, they said that the election, just from the people present, was a very close race in terms of the voter count. Is that correct?
No, actually, those that voted anonymously, there were 75 homes that voted anonymously. The vote was roughly 2-1 in favor of the candidates that were not on the board.
Okay, so for the challengers and not the incumbents.
Right.
Okay.
Now, there was another problem. We had asked, and we had, again, over 140 petitions signed asking for the following: that there be a joint ballot, and, notwithstanding that proxy that went around, that all names be on proxies and ballots, that the, and I'm sorry, I don't have the paper in front of me, that the election be, the names be kept anonymous so that nobody will know who voted for anybody else, and that there be an independent auditor present to observe. Okay? What they did that day is they decided, okay, they listed everybody's name on a ballot, they handed them out, and they said, okay, you can do it anonymously. The problem was they didn't hand out enough envelopes with the line to fill in the address, and then when they got them back, if it didn't have an address, they got tossed.
Oh, God.
So we don't. I mean, even that count isn't accurate.
Yeah.
The independent auditor was selected by the attorney who didn't know whether she represented the board or the homeowners association.
Yeah.
And another problem which has come out is that she prepared the proxy for the board, and it was her argument that anybody could prepare a proxy, and it's an individual right. I'm an attorney. I don't necessarily agree with that, especially when the proxy for the board, which is an individual right, is prepared for by the attorney for the homeowners association.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think it's a conflict of interest for her to do a private proxy versus and she went ahead with this. And these issues have not been resolved as of this time.
Yeah.
And we're not sure whether they'll be resolved now or at the next election.
Okay. And so you go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say, there is so much apparent conflict of interest going on. There are so many violations of your governing documents. What can you do next? Is there anything more you can do to try and correct the situation?
Well, there are two things that could be done. I think we've accomplished to some extent the first, which is we've awakened the community. I think people are now cognizant of the problems existing in the community, and
most definitely.
And the board is now responding. I hate to say, to me, it appears they're scurrying to make things look good. But people are aware, and people still are asking me, what are we going to do? We're going to show up at the January meeting and make sure that there is an open part of that meeting. I understand there are certain parts that do need to be confidential, but but for the most part, the meeting should be open.
I agree.
And people should be able to ask questions. I think people should be able to ask questions about projects that are ongoing and just, tell me what's happening in my community. So that's one thing that, we want to make sure is that people go to the meetings, attend the meetings, be aware. We want to make sure the annual meeting occurs on time next year, and we don't know whether that's anywhere between August and November based on what happened. And the third solution, which is the one that, of course, even as an attorney, I'll tell you is the least or most distasteful, is bringing a suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody. In some ways, you may finally get the decision, but boy, a lot of people lose and a lot of money is spent, isn't it? To get to that point.
Exactly. I'm not advocating that. I think it's a difficult thing to do in these circumstances. It's possible. No decision has been made, concerning that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you certainly have awakened the community, and I would say that is a great thing, David. And it sounds like the is it fair to say the board is now at least letting homeowners know when their board meetings are going to be held, so you can attend those as well?
Well, so far I haven't heard anything. November, the annual meeting was held on the 7th, so I don't know whether they held a regular meeting on the 21st. I assume that the meetings were, that was it. The November meeting was done. December, I understand that they don't usually hold a board meeting. We're awaiting confirmation of that. If not, we will start being at the meetings starting in January, because we know that it's the third Tuesday of the month, and we plan on having a crew of homeowners members.
Yeah. Well, boy, David, we just want to wish you good luck in all your endeavors. I am, and I think I can speak for Tony too. We're certainly impressed with the process and diligence that you've been going through, not only on your behalf as a homeowner, but for the other homeowners there at the association. You guys are showing some dissonance to the board, but you're doing it in an orderly, reasonable fashion, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show today with us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And Tony.
Well, Tony, man, there's so much to say here.
Well, it's remarkable that a homeowners association of that size, that there has not been just a total revolt in the last 9 years against the way this board is operating. But maybe that speaks to the apathy of those owners. I think David has accomplished a huge goal by raising awareness among the homeowners. David and the other homeowners he's been working with. We know that apathy is a very difficult thing to overcome, even when things get this bad.
Yeah, I guess the real crux of the matter here, what seems to be different is, and you hit the nail on the head when you said it's the difference between being professionally managed and self-managed.
Right.
I don't necessarily just want to toot our own horn as a management company, but there is a difference when you have a third independent, disinterested party that is serving the association. Because you know that if a homeowner were to call us as the management company and ask for financials or past meeting minutes, we wouldn't dare not to provide those to the homeowner.
Because we have to comply with state statute, which says that homeowners are allowed to see those documents.
Exactly, but when you have that self-managed aspect, boy, you had it sounded like a lot of people who were just holding too many things too close to the vest.
No kidding.
Yeah.
There were no checks and balances at all.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break right now, folks. We've got a lot more on the way. We're going to be checking in with a snowplow contractor here shortly, too, to kind of get a little man in the street interview on how things are going with the cleanup after the huge storm that we've experienced over the last day or two. But we'll take a break now. More with Where You Live after this.